Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's session on teens and hypnotherapy. We're going to have a great conversation today with my guest. Conversation. Good evening. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. It's so good to see you live.
I know,
You
it's
look,
lovely,
you,
isn't it?
you look beautiful, by the way, I must tell you.
You.
Yeah, so what I usually do is just introduce my guest, and then I would then hand over to you to kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Perfect.
So, welcome everyone to Self Love Academy. My name is KG Moses, and today we have Kate Hoyle with us. And Kate works from anything from addiction to weight management, but has a particular focus on helping teenagers suffering from anxiety or low mood. She also supports their parents because she knows only too well what it's like trying to support a child and not having anywhere to turn to for knowledge or help. She's an advanced rapid transformational therapist and a clinical hypnotherapist. Kate is able to bring understanding about the root cause of an issue and then work with the client to reframe their beliefs and behavior. This is particularly fast and effective therapy, leading to permanent and transformative change. So, welcome today onto Self Love Academy. I have been doing a series on self love and just looking at particularly men and mental health. And, you know, when looking at the figures, it's outstanding the number of men that, you know, is affected by this in our society. And I just wanted to shine some light to this topic. I want you to talk a little bit about yourself so people can get to know you and know a little bit about your story.
Okay. And thank you so much for doing this. You know, the more people that are shining a light on this issue, mental health in general and mental health for men in particular, is just such an important thing. So I just want to start off by saying thank you for everything you're doing in this space.
Thank you.
My background is actually via my daughter. She was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety at age only 12 and spent years going through CAMS. We took her to every type of therapy that we could think of. Nothing really was working and things actually were getting worse and worse. She was having eating disorder problems. She was medicated on antidepressants. She was supposed to be hospitalized, but there was never a bed. And that's another story. And in my search, my constant search for trying to help her, I came across someone called Marissa Peer. I liked what she was saying because she was talking about, you know, you don't want to keep going back every week talking about the same problem. You want to get in there, you want to find what's the cause, and then you want to solve the problem. And I found a therapist, I took my daughter, and it was the start of her recovery. It was the only thing that worked for her. And I was so blown away. I did a 360 on my career and I trained with Marissa to become a rapid transformational therapist. And it's just transformed my life. And I started off really concentrating on addictions and weight management. But I was finding more and more young people were coming to me And I realized that that was really where my passion was. And, you know, they say your message, your message. And, you know, from everything I went through, it seemed like the right thing to do. And particularly coming out of the end of the pandemic, as I hope we are coming out the other end, there are so many issues for young people now. And the service is just not there for them. It was crumbling before, now it's on its knees. I mean, it was an 18-month wait before. We're now looking at some parts of the country 2 to 3 years. And not a service. I mean, when you're a parent in that position and you are desperate to help your child,
yes,
you can't wait 2 weeks, let alone 2 years. So I really want to shine a light on the problem. I want teenagers and adolescents to know that there are people out there rooting for them, and I want to support and empower parents, because at the end of the day they are going to be key to the recovery. Because we used to go to the therapy sessions and I had to drag my daughter there. She never wanted to go, we were always late. She'd go in, have the appointment, come out again. I wasn't allowed to go in. And the only thing that the therapist would say to me is, well, let's make the next appointment. And what about me? What do I do? How do I help my child? I'm going to be the one supporting her 24/7 the next 7 days. And it's just this void. And through everything I've learned, through all my training, through all working with teenagers, adolescents now, I know that I can empower parents. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is so, so important. And, you know, listen to your personal story and your personal story with your daughter. What were the signs? Were there signs that you saw to say, no, something is a little bit off here?
Really good question. I always say to parents, listen to your intuition. Nobody knows your child like you know your child. And when she was 6 or 7, there was like this switch. And she became a very different person. And she would sort of start shouting and screaming. And I just knew that just wasn't her, you know. Had any of that before. And I knew something was desperately wrong. She couldn't articulate it. I went to the school, who had actually an excellent Senko. You know, a lot of schools don't, but this did. And she said, I'll talk to her. And then she said, you know, I can't find anything wrong. And I said, I think there's something about our friendship. And they went, no, look, they seem perfectly happy. And so it went on. And then what happened, and as I've learned now, this happens very frequently. If we can't express our emotions, if we have an emotional or mental health problem that can't be dealt with, it gets internalized and we get physically ill. Now, this is really common. This is very common with adults as well as children. And she kept getting sick. And it was almost, I wondered whether she had glandular fever. It was that kind of absolute fatigue, couldn't do anything. So then we went down the pediatric route. And it got to the point where I remember so vividly taking the call from the chief paediatrician, because in fact there'd been a bit of a mess, and so she'd taken over the case. And she said to me, Mrs. Hoyle, there is nothing physically wrong with your daughter. We have explored everything. This is a mental health issue. And at least we knew that, you know, okay, so we're one step further. Then we had the just endless wait for CAMS. And as I said, then we went through years and years of therapy. And it's just a very long, lonely journey. But always, I'd say, listen to your intuition, because yes, they get to be teenagers and they want to experiment and they want to try new things and they want to rebel a little bit, which is normal because that's them trying to it's natural for them to pull away from that parental control.
Yes.
But when you're seeing a drastic change in behavior,
Yeah.
that's when you really need to start paying attention.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. And, sometimes I'm a parent. I've got a teenager myself. And so one of the things that, I hear a lot of parents say is knowing how to find the right care, because you have the healthcare service, like you said, they are overwhelmed at the moment. And being able to have access to someone like yourself who can begin to help parents, number one, understand what is going on, because they're as lost as anyone else, and then finding the right care for their child. How what steps do you think they need to do? What step do you think they need to take?
I mean, awareness. I offer a service is literally £99, and I'll spend an hour with the parent and come up with a plan. Anyone can DM me, get hold of me. I'll always try to help. You need to find something that the child is going to be engaged with, because if it's going to be effective, they need to be engaged with it. And as I said, we tried everything, and that's not always financially available to people. We were very lucky that we could resource that.
Yes.
I would keep hammering at the door of the GP, keep going back. Don't accept a first answer. If you know your child needs help, unfortunately, you have to be the advocate. You have to keep trying to find the answer for them. But I'd say the key, the absolute breakthrough that came for me was trying to see things from my daughter's point of view.
Right.
And that's for boys, girls, whatever. And because up till then, I think I was trying to be the parent. I was trying to, we're always used to coming up with the answers, aren't we? Like, we know best, we direct our children, we're trying to bring them up the right way. And then we have school, and we're
Yes.
into us that they must be at school. It's the most important thing. They mustn't miss a day's education. So all your focus becomes, I've got to get my child into school. And then actually it was my wonderful friends in education who would say to me, Kate, it doesn't matter. Education doesn't have to fit into the timetable that everyone else is used to. I can't access that education at that point, their mental health is way more important, because if you can't sort out the mental health issues, they're not going to learn anyway.
Yeah.
And you need to be really robust. It's not, as I say, it's quite a lonely place. And, you'll get all sorts of, I've heard of awful accusations, but you need to do what's right for your child. And you need to try and understand from their point of view. Don't try and answer yourself. What are they going through? What are they feeling? What's happening in their life? And that's a fundamental shift to come out of parent mode and into listening, really active listening. Don't be so quick to jump in with a solution, or no, you mustn't, or no, you can't, or active listening means at any point you would be able to repeat back to the person what they said and how you interpret that. And let them talk. And unfortunately, it means being available. My daughter never wanted to talk about anything until I was just about ready to crawl into bed. And then she would start a conversation. And I just had to say, do you know what? I can live without an hour's sleep. She needs me right now. So being available, active listening, trying to see things from their point of view, I'd say were the three key elements of what you need to do.
Yeah. And did you find that there was a difference in the way boys express themselves and the way girls express themselves when they're experiencing this challenge, I would
Yeah,
say.
sure. I mean, girls do tend to find it easier to open up about these things, although I have to say it's a tricky age group. So when my daughter actually became brave enough to talk about her anxiety and depression to her friendship group, it actually wasn't that well received. They weren't that supportive. She became, oh, you're always the downer, or you never want to do things, and we don't always want to hear about your problems. So it isn't as easy to say girls versus boys, but the thing
Mm,
with the boys, I mean, I'm not a violent person, but
mm,
if I hear the phrase "man up" one more time, I would always call people out on that, because
mm,
it's really how we've been bringing them up since they were toddlers.
yeah.
Boy falls over, don't make a fuss, don't cry. Big boys don't cry. You'll be fine. Um, and it's really hard for them to suddenly adjust and go, oh, you mean it's okay to have these emotions? It's okay to talk about how I feel? That's a big adjustment. And they
Mm,
don't feel safe when they open up about their emotions. And that's even more reason why we have to hold that space for them and make ourselves available to them and model.
yeah.
We need to teach the adult men as much as we need to teach the boys, because the adult men need to model expressing emotion.
Mm,
Otherwise, the boys will never feel comfortable doing that.
yeah. And yes, so in terms of RTT,
Mm-hmm.
how is RTT different from any other therapy?
So, what RTT does is it goes to the root cause of the issue. And the reason that's so important is that, to me, otherwise, it's like a doctor giving you a tablet for a symptom, but never making you really well because they haven't found out what caused the illness in the first place.
Mm,
And a lot of the talking therapies, and they work for some people, but a lot of the time they don't really fix something. So my daughter used to go, well, okay, I've had someone to talk to, but it hasn't solved anything.
mm,
And that's the difference, because if you go to the root cause and find out where did this really come from, and it doesn't have to be major trauma. It can be something that happened at school. It could be desperately trying to seek the love and approval of a parent. It could be all sorts of things. But if you find out where this came from and you open that up to the teenager, to the adolescent, and they go, oh, now I get it, now I understand. And once you have that understanding, then you can move on to reframe the way you think about it.
mm,
Quite a lot of our behaviours and mental health issues are for protection. At a time when we were very little, we needed to find a coping mechanism. And then you need to see, oh, well, I needed that when I was 6, that now I'm 16. And so it incorporates hypnotherapy. And the beauty about hypnotherapy is that it allows you to access the subconscious, and the subconscious stores everything we need to know. It stored all those emotional issues, all the things that the children have tucked away. And it also puts you in a really receptive state for positive emotion, positive affirmation and change. And so you'll allow that in. And so it's just such a powerful way. And it takes out all the guesswork. We don't have to go, I think it could be this. In my opinion, it's X. We'll find out. Find out from the individual themselves, where did this come from? Let's reframe the way you think about it. And then let's make you a personalized recording that you listen to every single day for 3-4 weeks, because that we learn through repetition, and that's going to bed in all the change, the way of thinking. And so it's the most phenomenal therapy I've ever come across. I've got Rachel's on. Rachel knows about RTT, and she's just said it 100% works.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. And the reason I love working with young people is that I've worked with plenty of, I've worked with men in their 50s, 60s, women too, who've struggled with these things all their life. But you work with a young person,
Yeah.
set them free, they can go and enjoy the rest of their lives. It's so wonderful, to do that for them.
Wow. Yeah, and I think one thing I love about it is long lasting.
Yes.
It goes really deep to the root of the issue,
Yeah.
and allows the person to see where it's coming from. Because if you don't understand where it comes from, it can show up any other time in your life along the years down the line. The same scenario may present itself. So in terms of RTT, why do you think is not accessible in schools? Because I've heard of Marissa, and I've watched her videos as well. I know about her, but I'm just thinking, why isn't this being used in schools to be able to help teenagers to overcome those challenges that they go through, like bullying? That's one that a lot of teenagers do experience: bullying, trying to find who they are, peer pressure. Why do you think that that's not something that is in mainstream education?
I mean, the sad thing about education is that it's teaching our children an awful lot of things and very little about what they actually need.
Yeah.
And, if we could start them off really young, explaining about how their minds work,
Yeah.
because if you understand how your mind works, you can then use it effectively.
Yes.
And so many kids will go, I wish I'd known this earlier. And the most empowering thing for them to realize is that all these negative thoughts, all this negative chatter that goes on all the time, that's their thoughts. They created that, but it becomes so powerful that it almost feels like it's come from somewhere else and they have absolutely no control over it. And then when you realize that, oh, hang on a minute, that's my thought and I have the power to change that.
Mm.
That's such a fundamental issue for them, and they go, wow. And so I really wish it was taught as absolute mainstream, that
Yeah.
you understand how the mind works. But the organisation at the minute is working on a pilot project with teenagers,
Yeah.
and actually having some phenomenal results with supporting them changing anxiety and low mood. And we are also hoping to work on a project where we can take this into schools and enable the teachers to use some of these techniques to help the children.
Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. That is an excellent project. I would love to actually be involved. It sounds really interesting. So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah. Go on.
but other than that, it's about finding someone who's been, thoroughly trained and can work on a one-to-one basis, with your child.
Do you train?
I don't know. No one actually is qualified to train other than via Marissa Peer and her
No.
organisation.
Right. And I wanted to ask a question. You talk about mind and having to have that understanding, knowing your thought process, your belief system, why you think the way you think. So you have a parent who's listening to you at the moment, and maybe they have a young child who's not got to that age, a teenager yet, and they're looking for tools, they're looking for some kind of guidance on what they need to be doing now to prepare them for later on in years. What would you offer them?
I think when they're younger, positive words, because our minds are always listening, and they
Mm.
always listen to what we say to ourselves more than anybody else saying anything to us.
Mm.
And our minds don't care what we tell it. They don't care whether it's true or false, right or wrong. It will just listen to what we say. So when you get a child to look in the mirror and say, I am smart, I am wonderful, I can do anything, the child says it to themselves. And you can have 5 people say, oh, Keji, I just love your hair today. It's amazing. And if you don't feel good about yourself, you'll go, oh, yeah, they don't really mean it. They were just being nice. That's the voice your mind.
Mm.
But if you look in the mirror and you
Mm.
go, damn, Keji, you look good today, your mind goes,
Mm.
yeah, you do. And so I would start at an early age with the positive affirmations, but the child saying it. And just getting them to understand that it's their mind and their thoughts and they have control over it.
Yes.
And then once you can teach them how to control that, it's amazing.
Yes. And also, I was just thinking about Rachel said, Kate taught me to say positive things to myself, and I use that to all my children. Honestly, it's helped so much. My daughter now believes what I say, and I'm so positive. And that's one of the things I wanted to kind of highlight as well, because parents, they themselves are speaking to themselves in that voice, a negative voice. And so now to try and pass on something that they have not actually worked within themselves, it could be challenging.
Very,
So
yeah.
it could be like Rachel has said, it could be a situation where you're learning as well as you're teaching,
Oh, for
and
sure.
at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any parent who works on themselves is helping their child.
Mm.
And a lot of times people will bring their child to me to be fixed.
Mm.
It's not the child that's the problem.
Right.
And you have to sort your stuff out first.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Even if you don't feel comfortable with some of those suggestions, then try and get the child to say it. But the one thing I would say, and I absolutely agree with you, Keji, all primates learn through observation. Kids don't do what you tell them to do, they do what you do because they are watching you all the time, because that's how they learn. So if your behaviour's off, their behaviour's off. If you have no self-esteem or self-confidence, the chances are they will do the same. If you've got negative behaviours, that's what they will be picking up on.
Wow. There's so much work to be done.
But you see, if your intention is right,
Mm.
and if you
Mm.
do the best you can for your kids,
Yeah.
then you are most of the way there.
Yes. 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 And do you think, have you seen an increase in the number of teens experiencing mental health situation during this pandemic? Has it gone up?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can't have the whole world having a heightened sense of anxiety and not feel it yourself. And,
Mm.
and be of an age where you can't really put it in perspective because they're not very good at projecting forward.
Mm.
Prefrontal cortex isn't even developed fully till mid-20s, and then we
Mm.
expect them to have all these great planning processes and know about repercussions and all the rest of it. They're just not really equipped to do that yet. So yeah, this heightened sense of anxiety, they don't know whether it's safe to be out in groups. Is it not? Would they rather stay inside? People with going to find it very difficult to step back into those situations.
Mm.
Anxiety is a huge issue right now. Interestingly, some of the worst increases have actually been in the younger children because they haven't had the social media interaction with friends. But nevertheless, we know that CAMS and mental health services are absolutely inundated right now.
Mm.
And it's going to be very, very difficult. And I think the kids have almost been the forgotten ones in all of this. You know, we have
Mm.
this, they're so resilient and they can cope and they're very adaptable. They've had their education really curtailed. They've had
Mm.
social interaction altered. They haven't had that going out in groups. Some of them, you know, they've turned 18, they haven't been able to go out and, you know, go to the pubs and the clubs or whatever it is that they would normally do. University students have been impacted. So it's impacted all of their lives. And, you know, sadly, that is having a knock-on effect.
Yeah, definitely. I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine it. Um, yeah. So if you have a parent out there who wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Do they just go on your website? Because I'm going to post all your details.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to upload, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, you can just DM me on Instagram. Kate. If you search Kate Hoyle hypnotherapy, pretty much
Yes.
anyone can find me.
Yeah.
There's a contact me form on my website.
Okay.
Just send me an email, send me a DM, and you know, I'll do what I can to help.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask you, do you work with parents who may have experienced grief as a result of pregnancy loss? Because that's
Oh,
something that.
I mean, I had 2 miscarriages before I had my children, and you know, it's a again, it's almost like the mental health issue, isn't it? It's just not spoken enough about.
Mm.
Those things that sort of it's all very hushed, and it's real and it's valid and it's grief, and grief is a natural process. Grief is
Yes.
something that you want to speed up, but if it's something that's impacting your life, you know, a year later, and it's having a significant impact in your life, a lot of people need that help and support. And there's a beautiful thing that I can use RTT for, and it's really connecting with that child and expressing what hasn't been expressed emotionally, and which can
Mm.
be really, really empowering.
Mm. Yes, you know I'll be contacting you. I'm even going to post your, because of my charity, Balm in Gilead, and you know, I think so the women in our community and families in that community can definitely benefit from what you offer, and that's something I'm going to be pushing forward for it. So yes, we've come to the end.
Oh, thank you.
I,
Well, I talk about this all day. You.
yeah, yeah. You know, I really, really appreciate you coming on, and I've learned that it is important to listen to the young, to our teens. You know, let them speak. Don't always try to fix. Just be available and be present. I think that is important as well, and having the time for them. And I think in this hustle and bustle lifestyle, I think it's important to kind of stop and just, you know, give them that space to be able to talk to you, because they're transitioning and they're growing, trying to find themselves, evolving, having all different issues that that, you know, they're trying to navigate this world as well. So it's important to do that, and also to be able to advocate the right support for your child. You know, if you're being told something and you're not sure about it, get a second opinion as a parent. You know, look for, you know, other therapists or other support that you think might fit that situation rather than something that you've been given to. And if you, like you said, your intuition, if you feel like something is not right, even everybody's saying, yes, it's okay, you know, everything is all right, trust that voice, trust that intuition, and follow through. And also look for therapists, RTT therapists like Kate, who are able to kind of help you as a parent as well as help your child. So yes, thank you for everyone that's joined. Do you have a last word that you wanted to share with?
Oh no, I think let's just give those kids a bit of a break. That they're having a really tough time right now, and let's just let them feel that we're on their side.
Mm, mm, yeah. So one thing I did want to ask is that what if a child has experienced like really traumatic experience? Does RTT help as well? Not just the anxiety and
Yeah, it's ideal for trauma in
Okay.
and adults.
Okay.
It's one of those things that can actually, in a very safe way, access that trauma and not just keep. I've had clients and they've said, you know, my therapist just made me talk about it over and over again, and it's almost like going through that experience over and over again. Whereas if you can do that within the hypnotic state, it's far safer because you can almost detach yourself from the event, but you can explore it in order to then get over it. So yeah, it's an incredible therapy for trauma.
Yeah. There's one question I wanted to ask you, and this is the last one. Just talk us through a little bit about hypnotherapy. What is it? Because some people might listen to me and thinking, okay, I've never heard about this before. If you can just do that for
Yeah.
us, and then
Of course, it's not stage hypnosis, which is what most people think.
yeah.
Like, all hypnotherapy is a really relaxed state. It's a deeper relaxation than meditation, and all we're doing is cutting out the critical, logical thinking part of your mind and accessing the subconscious.
Mm,
It's safe, that no one's ever been harmed using hypnosis. Hypnosis goes back hundreds of thousands of years. It's very, very safe. It's impossible to make someone do or think something they don't want to. The people on stage have been chosen because they will go into hypnosis very quickly and they are responding to the laughter, to the applause, so they're going along with it. The person in the chair with me is far more in control of that session. They can tell me something, they can not tell me something, they could stand up and walk out, they could stop the session at any time. I know how to guide them, I know how to unravel things. It's not a spell, I'm not doing anything to you, you're not going to go anywhere, you're not going to be floating. It's actually a really, really safe therapy.
yeah. Okay. And one question I wanted to ask: do you, in your practice and the experience that you've had, do you see a lot of people from the Black community use your service?
I mean, I'd say sometimes there's a little bit more resistance there. And I think that's just from an understanding point of view,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
a belief around it, and maybe a bit of a suspicion around it. But I'd say, you know, I don't really have a particular group of people that I work with culturally, other, and I've worked with plenty of, especially Black young men actually, which is a joy because it's so important that we reach them. So yeah, I would say if anything, just that little reticence, maybe a suspicion and a misunderstanding about what it really is.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that for us. Thank you. Thank you,
Lovely.
everyone, for joining. Tyra says, great session. Thank you, Kate.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Rachel, and I know Caroline was here as well.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.